The cold walls of the diplomatic vessel Meridian carried a faint hum, the quiet music of deep space. Ambassador Jake Morrison sat in the sterile meeting room, his hands folded neatly on the polished table, his posture controlled. Across from him, the alien representative towered, 8 feet of crystalline flesh and refracted light. This was Fexel, envoy of the Zephyrian Council. Its voice was mechanical, detached, echoing in the small chamber like sound rebounding off ice. The human request for expansion rights has been reviewed by the Galactic Council, Fexel announced, tone flat, unyielding. The decision is final. There will be no appeal. Morrison did not flinch. He had expected rejection. For 30 years, humanity had played by the Council's rules. Always the junior species. Always the patient student at the feet of elder civilizations. And yet, patience had a price. On Earth's colonies, families lived cramped within narrow habitats designed for half their number. Children grew up without open skies, without unfiltered air. Dreams pressed against ceilings of steel. 3 uninhabited star systems lay empty, untouched by any claim, but forbidden to humans by ancient, rigid law. Morrison leaned forward. His voice was careful. We understand the Council's position. However, our population growth requires. There is more. Fexel interrupted, crystalline angles catching the white light above. The Council has reached an additional decision regarding human holdings. Lieutenant Amy Carter, Morrison's aide, felt her stomach twist. She sat still, her heart quickening. Something in Fexel's tone carried weight, an omen heavier than rejection. The Outer Rim colonies designated as New Boston and Liberty Prime must be evacuated within 6 standard months. These systems are reassigned to the Corfax Empire for military staging. The word struck harder than plasma fire. New Boston and Liberty Prime weren't just colonies. They were homes. Over 40 million human lives breathed there. Amy's parents among them, her father tending the hydroponic farms that fed 3 star systems. These are sovereign human territories, Morrison said, his voice steady though fury built behind it. Recognized under the Terran Accords of 2157. The Accords, Fexel replied, emotionless, are subject to Council oversight and revision. The Corfax Empire requires forward staging areas. Galactic security outweighs human needs. Amy's eyes flicked to Morrison. She had served him for 5 years. She knew the signs. His jaw had tightened, his hands clasped too firmly. Morrison was a diplomat by training, but a soldier by nature. The evacuation of 40 million people in 6 months is logistically impossible, Morrison pressed. The timeline is non-negotiable, Fexel cut him off. The Corfax fleet will arrive in 6 months. Any humans remaining will be considered hostile occupiers, and dealt with accordingly. The words lingered in the air, toxic. Everyone in the room knew what dealt with accordingly meant when spoken by the Corfax Empire. They were predators in armor, a species that solved problems through violence, and rarely stopped to ask questions afterward. Morrison rose slowly, each movement deliberate. Amy felt the temperature of the room drop. The time for polite dialogue had ended. I must consult with my government, Morrison said, voice low. This meeting is adjourned. There is nothing to consult, Fexel replied coldly. The decision has been made. Compliance is not optional. Morrison's gaze hardened. His words carried weight enough to make Amy shiver. Everything is optional, until it isn't. When Fexel's heavy footsteps faded down the corridor, Morrison activated a secure channel. Encryption layers unfolded like shields. Finally, the connection stabilized. President Helen Burke appeared on the screen. Gray hair pulled back, dark eyes sharp despite the late hour in Washington. Jake, she asked, though she already read the truth in his expression. How did it go? They rejected expansion, Morrison reported. But worse, they want us to abandon New Boston and Liberty Prime. 6 months. 40 million lives. The president froze, her features carved in stone. Amy watched as the leader of humanity carried the impossible in silence. They're not asking, Morrison added grimly. They're ordering. And they made it clear what happens if we refuse. Burke's eyes narrowed. Then Amy saw something she had never seen before in the president's gaze, cold, deliberate fury. Patch me through to Admiral Phillips and the Joint Chiefs, Burke ordered someone off-screen. Emergency session. Highest priority. Morrison hesitated. Helen, what are you thinking? The president's voice was quiet but razor-sharp. I'm thinking they crossed a line that should never be crossed. I'm thinking it's time the galaxy remembers what happens when humanity is told to kneel. The connection ended, leaving silence. Beyond the viewports, stars wheeled like distant eyes, witnesses to a decision that would echo through history. Amy spoke softly. What happens now? Morrison stared at the cosmos, his voice heavy with something deeper than anger. Now we see if humanity has learned anything from 10,000 years of being told what it cannot do. Hours later, his message moved across secure channels, reaching the most secret facility in human space. 3 words that shifted the fate of civilizations. They've crossed the line. Recommend Protocol 7. In the depths of Earth's Pentagon, red lights flashed. Admiral Roy Phillips received the transmission. Within the hour, Dr. Lisa Kane and her team prepared to unveil humanity's hidden answer. For 30 years, while the galaxy believed humanity patient and docile, another story had been unfolding. A secret project shielded from alien eyes. A weapon born not of conquest, but of survival. The Prometheus Project. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when a species clawed from the dirt, from sharp sticks and fire, was pushed too far. 6 months passed like the ticking of a countdown. The evacuation deadline arrived with mathematical precision. But there were no transport fleets fleeing New Boston. No lines of ships abandoning Liberty Prime. Instead, there were preparations. Defenses. Quiet determination written into every stone, every hull, every orbiting station. When General Thramor of the Corfax Empire arrived aboard his flagship Blood Fong, leading 30 warships, he expected submission. He had conquered 17 worlds for the Council. Every resistance had broken beneath the iron weight of his empire. But when his message of surrender echoed across New Boston's sky, the response was steady, human, unflinching. Negative, came Colonel Pete Harrison's reply. New Boston stands. What do you think so far? If you were in Morrison's place, would you have chosen diplomacy or defiance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this calm but dangerous journey through the stars, don't forget to subscribe, there's so much more of this HFY story to come. The Corfax fleet cut through the void like iron blades. 30 warships, each bristling with weapons that had shattered empires. Their arrival blotted out the stars over New Boston, casting the human colony into shadow. On the ground, families huddled in shelters, children clutching their parents as the sky filled with war. The humans had no illusions, the Council had given them 6 months to kneel, and they had refused. General Thramor of the Corfax Empire sat upon his command throne, armored plates gleaming, claws tapping the steel armrest. To him, humanity was a minor species, clever perhaps, but ultimately prey. This battle would be short, a warning to the rest of the galaxy about the cost of defiance. Open the channel, he growled. The comms officer obeyed, and Thramor's voice rumbled across New Boston's skies. Humans of New Boston, your time has ended. You were given 6 months. You chose rebellion. In the name of the Galactic Council and the Corfax Empire, surrender your colonies and prepare for immediate evacuation. Defiance will be met with annihilation. The reply came seconds later. It was not trembling. It was not afraid. Colonel Pete Harrison's voice carried steady across the void. New Boston stands. A ripple of disbelief moved across Thramor's bridge. Primitive humans, speaking to him as equals. Then you have chosen death, the general snarled. The first salvo came swiftly. Plasma fire rained down, burning streaks across the atmosphere. Human orbital defenses activated, shields flickering, rail cannons spitting metal slugs into the dark. The sky became a storm of fire. Amy Carter watched from the colony's central command hub, hands trembling as data streamed across her console. She had never seen anything like it, human defenses holding, but only barely, under the crushing weight of Corfax firepower. "They'll break through in minutes," she whispered. Beside her, Ambassador Jake Morrison stood silent. He had seen this moment coming. He had known the Council would never allow humanity to rise. But what the galaxy didn't know, what the Corfax couldn't imagine, was that Earth had prepared for this day. "Not minutes," Morrison said quietly. "Seconds. Watch." High above the colony, space rippled. A tear in nothingness widened into a scar of light. Out of the distortion emerged a vessel unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was vast, larger than the Corfax flagship, its hull layered in black alloy that drank starlight. No Council registry carried its design. No spy had ever reported its existence. The ship's name whispered across encrypted channels, UNS Prometheus. Inside, Admiral Roy Phillips gave a single order. Protocol 7. Execute. The Prometheus moved with impossible grace. Corfax scanners screamed confusion, its hull reflected nothing, its drive signatures unreadable. One moment it was kilometers away, the next it was upon them. A lance of light, impossibly narrow, erupted from the ship's core. It passed cleanly through the Corfax warship Iron Fist. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the vessel disintegrated, splitting silently into shards that scattered into the void. The bridge of the Blood Fong fell silent. General Thramor gripped his armrests, claws carving grooves in the steel. "What is that?" he demanded. His second officer stammered. "Unknown design, General. Its energy output exceeds Council classification. No records." "Then make records," Thramor roared. "Destroy it." 30 Corfax warships turned as one, firing streams of plasma, missiles, kinetic rounds. Space lit up like the birth of a star. But the Prometheus did not fall. Its shields shimmered, folding space around incoming fire, bending trajectories into nothing. Human engineers had built something the galaxy said could not exist. A warship designed not only to fight, but to break the laws of physics themselves. And then it struck again. A second beam carved through 2 more Corfax destroyers. The weapons were not brute force, but precision, as if the ship itself saw war not as chaos, but as mathematics. Within minutes, what had begun as a battle became an execution. On the surface, Amy Carter's eyes widened as the impossible unfolded above. The mighty Corfax fleet, terror of 17 worlds, was breaking. Their formation collapsed. Panic filled their comm channels, fragments of alien voices screaming orders that no longer carried weight. "They're retreating," she breathed. Morrison's expression was unreadable, his voice soft. "No. They're running. That's different." Indeed, half of the Corfax ships were already turning, engines flaring as they fled toward the edges of the system. Survival had overtaken conquest. But General Thramor remained. The Blood Fong roared forward, charging the Prometheus head-on. "This ends here." Thramor bellowed. "I will tear that ship apart with my own claws." On the Prometheus bridge, Admiral Phillips remained calm. His officers worked with mechanical precision, their voices steady even as the Corfax flagship closed the distance. "General Thramor," Phillips said across the channel, his voice measured, almost sad. "You came to erase 40 million lives. Remember this moment, for history will not remember you kindly." The Prometheus fired a final time. The beam cut through the Blood Fong from bow to stern. For a second, the Corfax flagship burned bright against the darkness, then vanished in silence, fragments drifting like ash. The battle was over. The galaxy trembled. Within days, reports of New Boston spread across alien networks. A minor human colony had not only defied the Council, but annihilated a Corfax fleet that had ruled unchallenged for centuries. Whispers began. If humanity could build such a ship in secret, what else were they hiding? What else waited in the shadows of their homeworld? For the first time in 500,000 years of Council dominance, fear moved through the great empires. Fear of a species they had dismissed as weak, naive, harmless. Humanity had shown its teeth. Back on Earth, President Helen Burke addressed the world. Her speech was calm, deliberate, every word chosen to echo beyond human ears. Tonight, the galaxy has learned a lesson we have carried in silence. We are not children to be herded. We are not pawns to be moved across another species' board. We are humanity. And when our homes are threatened, when our people are told to kneel, we rise. Her words traveled farther than the Council intended. Across the stars, oppressed worlds listened. Slave species remembered their chains. Small civilizations under the heel of empires asked themselves a question they had never dared before: if humans can defy the Council, why can't we? But victory carried a weight. In the Prometheus war room, Dr. Lisa Kane studied the weapons data. Her voice was heavy as she spoke to Morrison and Admiral Phillips. The Prometheus worked exactly as designed. But it is not invincible. If the Council throws its full weight at us, if they unite every empire, we will not have enough. This ship was never meant for conquest. It was built to remind the galaxy of something it has forgotten, that freedom has a price. Morrison nodded slowly. Then we don't need to fight every empire. Just enough to remind them that humanity is no one's pawn. Admiral Phillips leaned forward, voice like stone. And if they still come for us? For a moment, no one spoke. The silence of deep space pressed against them. Then Morrison answered, his voice quiet but certain. Then the galaxy will learn what happens when you push humanity to the edge. If you were one of the alien empires watching humanity rise, would you see us as a threat, or as a warning? Let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying this journey through calm, thought-provoking HFY Sci-Fi, don't forget to subscribe. Part 3 will reveal just how deep humanity's plans truly run. The wreckage of the Corfax fleet still drifted in the black, silent tombs orbiting New Boston. For centuries, the Corfax Empire had been the Council's sword. No species had stood against them and lived. Now 30 of their finest warships lay scattered like broken toys, their empire's pride reduced to scrap in less than an hour. The galaxy did not sleep. Across alien networks, whispers spread faster than light. A human colony had survived what should have been extermination. A secret warship had torn through an empire's fleet. And then, most disturbing of all, humanity said nothing. There was no triumphant declaration. No demands for new territory. No broadcast of conquest. Only silence. That silence was worse than any weapon. For the Council, silence was uncertainty. If humanity had only one hidden warship, the Prometheus, then perhaps they could be contained. But what if there were more? What if Earth had built 10, or 100? No empire dared to test it. And so, for the first time in 500,000 years, the Council hesitated. On Earth, President Helen Burke gathered her advisors in a dimly lit chamber beneath the Pentagon. Around the table sat Ambassador Jake Morrison, Admiral Roy Phillips, and Dr. Lisa Kane, the architect of the Prometheus project. Burke's voice was calm, but each word was deliberate. We now hold the initiative. The Council doesn't know what we're capable of. That uncertainty is more powerful than any fleet. We must use it carefully. Admiral Phillips leaned forward. The Corfax will demand retaliation. They'll want the Council to unite against us. They already want that, Morrison replied. But they're afraid. They don't know if striking us will cost them everything. Dr. Kane adjusted her glasses, her expression grave. The Prometheus is a symbol, not a solution. If the Council commits its full might, we can't win in open war. Our only chance is psychological. We need them to believe humanity is stronger than it is. President Burke nodded. Then we let the galaxy wonder. Let them fear shadows. Every silence, every unanswered question, becomes its own weapon. And so, humanity vanished. Colonies that once spoke freely over open channels fell quiet. Earth cut its calm traffic to a trickle. Ship movements became irregular, masked by decoys and false signals. The Prometheus itself disappeared into deep space, its location unknown even to most of Earth's commanders. The galaxy watched. And the galaxy trembled. On the distant world of Valen Prime, a council of alien leaders gathered in secret. 11 species sat around a circular chamber, each projecting their form in shimmering holograms. The humans have a fleet of ghost ships, one delegate whispered, a being of shifting mist. They waited 30 years in silence before revealing them. How many more decades have they been preparing? They cannot stand against us united, growled another, reptilian jaws snapping. We should strike now, before their phantom fleet grows stronger. And if their strength is already beyond ours, asked a third, insectoid antennae twitching. The Corfax thought the same. Look what became of them. The chamber filled with uneasy murmurs. For the first time, the galaxy's great powers were paralyzed, not by battle, but by doubt. On New Boston, Amy Carter walked through the colony's streets. Children played again under artificial skies, laughing as though the warships above had never come. Yet she could feel the weight pressing in from beyond the stars. What happens now? She asked Morrison quietly as they stood near the memorial for the fallen. The ambassador's gaze was distant. Now we wait. And waiting, Amy, is its own kind of war. She frowned. But we're not really ready for what comes next, are we? Morrison finally looked at her. No. But sometimes you don't need to be ready. You just need your enemies to believe you are. The silence spread farther than Earth intended. Across the Council's dominion, enslaved species began to stir. In the factories of the Draylen, in the mines of the Kairosh, in the drowned cities of the Harari, whispers rose. The humans defied them. The humans fought back and lived. Maybe we can too. The galaxy's order, an order kept through fear for 500,000 years, was unraveling. But in the shadows of this unraveling came something stranger. The Harari, a neutral race older than the Council itself, sent a quiet message to Earth. Their emissary, cloaked in silver, spoke to President Burke in a voice soft as rain. You believe your silence terrifies the Council. It does. But it also echoes louder than you know. There are others who listen, others who were here long before you or the Council. They hear your defiance. They hear your awakening. Burke frowned. Who are you talking about? The Harari's many eyes blinked in unison. The ones who built the first chains. The architects. You think you fight the Council. But they are only caretakers of a prison older than your son. And now, because of you, the architects are stirring. The room went still. Even Morrison, never shaken by Council threats, felt his blood run cold. Why warn us? He asked. The Harari's voice was almost pitying. Because in waking the galaxy, you may have woken them, too. For a long moment after the emissary departed, no one spoke. Finally, Admiral Phillips broke the silence. Architects or no, the Council still wants us erased. We can't prepare for phantom enemies we don't understand. Our task is here, now. But Morrison shook his head slowly. No. If the Harari are right, then the Council isn't our enemy. They're just the surface. The real question is, what lies beneath? President Burke's gaze was steady. Then humanity has 2 wars ahead. The one the galaxy sees, and the one that waits in the dark. And still, humanity said nothing. The galaxy waited for a proclamation, a warning, even a boast. None came. Instead, the silence grew. And in that silence, empires began to fracture, slaves began to dream of freedom, and ancient things began to stir. Humanity had spoken once, through the fire of the Prometheus. Now they spoke again, through absence. Through quiet. Through the simple act of refusing to kneel. And in that refusal, the galaxy began to understand a truth far greater than any council law. Sometimes the loudest voice in history is silence. If the galaxy were watching us right now, would you want humanity to speak, or to remain silent? Tell me in the comments. And if you've been following this calm, thought-provoking HFY journey, subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. Because the war with the council is only the beginning. Something older, something darker, is already watching.